Give to the World Ministries welcomes you to another teaching by Ralphena Dotson. Ralphena Dotson is well qualified to share the message you're about to hear as she lives the principles she teaches daily. As you listen, we trust this message will encourage you, help you grow, and develop into maturity as a believer in the kingdom of God. The word you don't know is the word that cannot help you, and the word that doesn't take root can never bring a harvest. Let this message take root in the ground of your heart as you listen to it over and over and take notes. Receive this message. Receive your harvest.
Well, hello. How are you today? I am so delighted that we get to come together today. I am concerned really for where we are, and so all the things that I'm talking about here as of late is thinking about how we can get into a place where we have positioned ourselves so that we can be useful to God in these last days. Hiding and abstaining and withdrawing is not what God expected the church of the living God to do in response to the issues that we're facing. We can't be passive. We can't be fearful. We can't demonstrate the lack of confidence that obviously we have in our hearts for God. There's a statement that says, that the people of God should manifest the wisdom of God. We should cause the manifestation of the wisdom of our God to be visible. And that's to every entity in the universe that is in opposition to our God, which is guided and instructed and commissioned into the earth by Satan. I'm in ministry. I claim to be in ministry because it's like all of a sudden my heart was so full for the compassion of the needs of the world that I couldn't focus on what I was doing. And I started teaching little classes just to be of help. I'd had so many issues in my life, so much trouble in my own life with the things I faced, and I just felt like there were things that I'd learned as a result of my trials that I could help other people sidestep trouble because I didn't have any direction at first, and so I made big mistakes. And then when I sought God's help, he showed me how to sidestep this and how to avoid that and how to refuse to accept this and how to align myself here and stand there and say this and be silent here and all that. He just helped me. And I felt like if he helped me, the Bible says he's no respecter of persons. And it touched me that I was looking at other people with trouble when I could be of some help. And so that's really all the reason I ever really wanted to be what they consider to be in ministry. I didn't even understand it was ministry. I just thought I was just trying to help. I remember when I first started back in the early 90s, and I would get a chance to speak. I started singing. I would sing for just about any kind of thing. I drove all the way halfway across the world to go sing Happy Birthday once. I'll never forget it. And God did a miracle for me on that long trip, travel from way out on one side of town to way past our town into another town, to a house, for a lady that I worked with, to sing Happy Birthday for her grandson. And when we came out of that place, my husband was in a wheelchair at the time, and I was comparatively young. He had surgery on his foot, and he couldn't walk, and we went out there and I sang Happy Birthday. And as soon as I sang Happy Birthday, everybody just rushed the cake and the kids and everything and just pushed us back. And I felt so stupid to have gone so far when they could have sung Happy Birthday for themselves, And I came out and struggled and got my husband out of that house, down those stairs and around in that car, and realized I was on E. Realized I had not enough gas to get back home. And I didn't have any money. And I drove to a gas station. And I pulled my car up to the pump. And I went in my purse to get my driver's license. and my Social Security card. That's all I had. I was going to take my driver's license and my Social Security card in the gas station and offer it to the gas station clerk as collateral for gas that I was going to ask him to give me so that I could go home, get the money, and drive back and bring it to him later. I was sitting in my car, and I didn't want to tell my husband he was sick, and he had just come just for the ride with me. He didn't want to be left alone. I worked every day, and he was stuck at home. So this little drive we were going to take to go do the birthday thing was just an outing for him, but he didn't feel good enough, and he wasn't strong enough to do anything. So I didn't want to disturb him with the thought, oh, we run out of gas. What could he do about it? Nothing. And so I'm sitting in my car, and I just get up the courage to just stand up and get out of my car. And I'm going and ask this man to let me have a little gas so I can go home. And I'm going to just face the fact that I have no money. And I had my driver's license and my Social Security card in my hand. And I walk around the back of my car. And when I walked around the back of my car, out of the store came a man who was upset. And he bumped into me. And he said, oh, excuse me. And I said, oh, that's okay. He said, I can't believe these people. I'll never forget this day as long as I live. I'll never forget. He said, I can't believe these people. He said, I told her to put so much money on my tank, on my card, and she put the money on there, and my tank didn't take all the gas. And I asked her for a refund, and she told me she couldn't give it to me. He said, so my card has been taken. Take the money I took for my gas, and now there's $17 worth of gas on my car she's just going to take from me. And he walked over to the tank, and he ripped the nozzle out of the tank. He said, open your tank. And I opened my tank. The man was so angry. And he stuck the nozzle of the pump he'd pumped gas on and filled his tank up with and started the pump on my car and filled my tank up $17. This was 1977. Gas was less than $1.50, $1.10. $17 worth of gas. He filled my tank. He got angry and got in his truck and drove away. And I stood there and pumped my tank full of gas. Overwhelmed of how my cry to God, oh God, what am I going to do? Help me. Please let this man or lady take my driver's license. I'm telling you, I'm talking about serving a God that will come to your aid, that will move by his Spirit in your behalf if you come to him. But we don't want to do that, and it's time that we did. If we're going to be people that show God that we want to be ministers, we have to have a certain attitude. And so I'm going to tell you the things that God says about what attitude we need to have and what thinking processes we need to have. It's just so serious. It says, here he gives information, and it says there's certain rules, various rules for priests. Those of us who say we love the Lord, there's people out there who go to visit the sick or go to the nursing homes, go to the prisons, go to the jails, go to the rehab houses, do all kinds of nice things. Well, if you're really going to do it and you really want God to bless you as a result of your faithfulness, these are some things you have to think of and do. No man who has a defect shall approach God's altar as a priest. And if you're going to be a blessing to people, you can't do it all out of your own skill, out of your own abilities, out of your own talents, out of your own things that you think you have control over. You're going to have access to something greater than you, because what the people needs is not you, but God's movement by his spirit in your behalf, but in their place, so that you can be used for them, to help them. If you're going to do this, you cannot have any physical defect shall approach the altar to present the food of his God. Now, this scripture says physical defects, but the defects have a specific reflection of what's happening on another level. On another level. The physical level is what you see. But what you see has some meaning on another level. Because we are spirit. We just live in this body, and we have a soul. Our soul is our thinking mechanism. How we deal with stuff, how we feel about stuff, what we know, what we're pursuing to know. So here it says, for a man who has a defect shall approach God's altar as a priest, or a man who has a broken foot or a broken hand. What does that mean? We're in the book of Leviticus, chapter 21. And there's a list of these things, and I'm just going to bring up a few of them because we don't have a lot of time, but I want you to think about it. If you have a desire to serve God and be used of God in these last days, even just to minister to your family members, to talk to your family members, to pray for your family members, to pray over your children, over your grand. If you have this, there has to be some standard of your being so that when you do what you do, it has the impact it has that is bestowed upon you for the sake of ministering or giving it to the person in need. If you have a broken hand or a broken foot, what does that mean? A broken hand or a broken foot? Well, you think, well, that's not fair. I could break my hand or I could break my foot. I've broken my foot. I dealt with my broken foot for years as a result of a fall. But the broken foot that he's talking about is not just the physical foot. It's talking about what is the foot used for. It's a mechanism to go from one place or another. So you have to be willing to allow God to establish your steps so that you want to take the right steps. You want to go the right way. You don't want to go, and boy, I have to say it this way for myself. I found myself not listening well and having a strong will, and I would go to the bathroom by way of California. You know, you're in your room, and all you got to do is come out. I think I told you that the trip from the Red Sea, when they crossed over the Red Sea, the children of Israel, to get to the promised land across the Jordan River was 11 days. It took them 40 years. And you can get out of your bed to go down the hall to the bathroom, but if you stupid or you allow some thought to come to you that seemingly makes sense because you heard it from somebody you think is smart, or you saw somebody say that it was great, you can come out of your bedroom and go down the hall and go out of your house and down the road and end up in California and come all the way back from California, all down all the different roads, past trial, tribulation, years, time, and expense, and go in your bathroom. Go in your bathroom by way of California is the way a lot of people live. A lot of us make mistakes, and it takes us years and years and years to find our way back to where we were supposed to be. So don't have your foot be broke into a place where it's headed in a direction that's not going to take you where you need to go. It's not going to hold you up. Don't have your foot caught in some kind of a trap where you can't go where you need to go, where you're hindered because of something you stepped into. So if your foot or your And your hand can't be trusted. You know, you work with this and you work with that, and you have somebody's trust, and you work with the money, or you deal with this, and instead of you doing exactly what you're supposed to do, you try to figure a way where you can manipulate a little of it away from where it's supposed to be to where it works better for you. So you use your hand to betray a trust or a responsibility or a need. Your hand was used. You took it. You undermined so that you could have access to it. Our job in ministry is not to figure out how we can get over at every turn. We're going to sell scarves, and we're going to sell this, and we're going to sell that, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do that. But we're not going to spend time learning the Word of God and developing wisdom of God and seeking God and purveying His Word to the people that need to hear it and understand it. Break it down so that no matter how small or how minute or how simplistic their ability to receive is, you feed it to them in a way that they can chew it, taste it, and swallow it, and it becomes nutrition to them. That's what a minister's job is to break down what God is to a place where anybody can receive it, from a child to a person, a grown person who has minimal mental ability. We need to be able to do it, and it's work involved. You have to be willing to study. You have to be willing to endure so that you can share something that the person that you're talking to can see and hear. Oh, no man for a hunchback or a dwarf. You know, the hunchback or the dwarf. Hunchback or a dwarf. Now, let me figure this out. Hunchback is a condition of the spine that causes a curvature in the spine, and the spine comes up to a point, and then it goes down. So you have a bend in your back that causes your posture to be diminished. It takes away from your height. You know, a person that's a hunchback, their spine is bent in a certain way, they bend over. But if that hunch was removed, they'd stand up and they'd be taller. I take that as having character. Be the kind of person that you would want to have dealings with your eyes closed. Have a determination to be a decent, upright person. That word upright. Upright. Stand upright. Let the person know that in you is a rod of steel and honor, of good repute. You're a person that has character and integrity. Your back is straight. You don't have no hunched over condition where you try to get closer and closer to something so you will not notice. No, you stand upright. Be honest. Be an honest person. Can people trust what you say? Or do you find yourself manipulating every situation with a lie or an explanation that is a lie or some kind of fabrication of the truth so that you're not accountable for what you've caused or what you're doing or what you can be trusted with? The dwarf part was the part that I kind of felt like represented me. A dwarf, and now that they have all these acceptable ways of describing things, you used to have to say a little person. Now, the midget or the little person is a proportional small person. From the back, he looks like a child. His head is a child-sized head, arms and legs, child size. arms and legs, the proportional structure, body structure. But when you turn that person around, there is an old person in the face. You can tell you're dealing with an adult. You're not dealing with a child. But a dwarf is totally different. A dwarf is a being that has a full-size head, but short arms and legs. The trunk of the body is a normal size from the neck to the groin, but the legs are short and the arms are short. And the head is full size. Now you can see that is a dwarf from any direction. Any way you look, you can recognize a dwarf. And I think that that was basically my thinking of me. You know, when you look at the concept of the size of a person's head, it's kind of supposedly a reflection of the capacity of their brain. And I was thinking that when I read this dwarf thing, when I read it and examined what the word meant and what the characteristics were, it was like I was saying, here I am, able to think, able to figure stuff out, able to calculate, able to plan, able to realize in my head what I wanted to do and how I could get it done. But after I thought it through and planned it and got it in a position where it was ready to go, all I had to do was reach for it. But because of whatever at the point when I realized it applied to me, I had to come to those conclusions later. My arm wasn't long enough to lay hold to it. I'd take a step toward my goal, and my step wouldn't get me there. I felt like I was a dwarf because I had the thinking ability, the heart's desire. My trunk was the normal size. I didn't have a miniature heart. I had a full-size heart. I had a full-size head. But when I reached for what I was trying to lay hold to, or what I was believing for, my arms weren't long enough to reach for me to get there, and my legs weren't long enough to take me there. And I remember the day that I prayed that God would deliver me from dwarfism, from the thinking and the inability to lay hold to what was mine and to pursue that I had the capacity to do, and grow my arms and my legs out, so that when I'm supposed to do something, I could think about it, plan it, pray over it, and do it. That's what God wants from us. A lot of people will stay a dwarf and put other people in positions to do what they can't do. And I realized that was especially in the area of computers, I was just horrible. And I would do anything to keep from having to do a computer work on the computer. I'd pay people, help me, you know. I got short arms when it comes to the computer. I've had to push a little bit past there. I'm doing a little better. But that's an attitude you have to have if you're going to really serve God. If you're really going to do what needs to be done, you can't have short arms and short legs. You can't have things that God says do out of your reach because you won't try and you won't learn and expand and study and pray. You have to do what it takes to be suitable. All right, what does it say? Oh, yes. Defect of the eye. That means that when you look at something, you look at it with the wrong view, the wrong slant. A lot of times we've had issues and situations, things that's happened to us over the years, and we're just discouraged by it. And when we look at anything now, we look at it with the eye of just doubt and, a reflection of pessimism. Well, what's the possibility? We can't be the pessimistic antagonistic, uh, negative thinkers if we're going to serve God. We can't be. That doesn't work. That just doesn't work. If you're going to serve God, you got to be a positive person. You got to try to see things out of the eye of expectation and victory. You got to see things in a way that gives you the ability to lay hold of what happens. Now, this one here is so serious because I think too many people have this eczema or scabs. What do you mean eczema or scabs? What does that mean? Well, skin, that's a thing of the skin. Irritation of the skin, something that just don't go away. Every time you look down at it, there it is. And a scab is real serious because if you tear the upper layer of the epidermal of your skin, a scab will form. It's just a natural entity. The way your body was built, the plasma will rise up to the surface and it will harden and will allow the skin underneath to be repaired and to heal and to come back to normalcy. And the problem with the scab is that most people, when something happens to them, they don't let the scab do the work. They pick the scab. So that means that as soon as you have a problem and a scab starts to form so that healing can come, you pick the scab and now it's got to heal again. And you pick the same scab. You hold on to the same offense, the same insult, the same rejection, the same words that hurt your feelings, the same way somebody made you feel. You pick it your whole life and it never heals. God said, don't come to me in my offer. Don't come. Don't bring your descendants. None of your descendants. Nobody with these kind of defects where they won't let something heal and they won't let something grow and they won't let the process of healing take place that I've made available. Because if you let a scab fall off, the skin under there will be so pretty you'll never know you had an issue. But as long as you scratch it, even if you scratch it for 4, 5, 6 months, when it finally does heal, it'll leave a scar. Why? Because you didn't have the strength or the discipline or the understanding to let it heal on its own. Read Leviticus chapter 21 and rescribe your heart to God. Give him everything and do things his way. This is Ralphena. I love you.